Uh, Hello, good afternoon. Today I'm today we are going to speak about talk about socialization, definition, process, theories, and its agencies. Okay, socialization is actually about the individual human being. Okay, by birth, generally a child is physically don't have any properties of the what is the society. Like physically, he is a living being, only with as a biological organism, we can say, with animal needs. Gradually, he will be molded into a social being, and he learns social ways of acting and feeling. This process of molding is called socialization. In the sense, by from living being to social being, the process in between which takes place is called socialization. Okay. In the sense, he is a biological being or living being with no social properties, social what is say attributes. From there, he gradually learns one by one the language, the behavior, the how to respond, okay, how to behave in the society, how to act in the society. Okay, these all processes, these all things comes under socialization. Okay, he will learn one by one with the different interaction with the different people in the society. Like first, initially with family, next neighborhood, next the school, school
Good
environment or
afternoon, sir.
education institutions.
Good
That's
afternoon,
that
sir.
their friends. All these groups help the
Hi,
individual
hi, sir.
to socialize himself. Okay.
Hello.
Now we study about the definition. There are different sociologists defined socialization in different ways. First of all, we study about Kimball Lenga, a famous sociologist who defines socialization as the process of inducting the individual, into social and cultural world, and making him a member in society and its groups is called socialization.
Hi, sir. This is which lesson, sir?
Okay.
Which unit?
When we analyze his definition, we can say he is an individual. As an individual, after the birth, the individual is inducted into, enters into the society and the cultural world, and he became a member of society with interaction with various groups. Okay, according to Kimball Young. Okay, the second definition is from Akbar, a famous sociologist. According to him, socialization is the process by which the individual learns to conform to the norms of the group. Whatever the rules and regulations of the group, he will try to follow. And the members in the society surrounding him will inculcate, will train him how to follow the behavior, how to follow the values or norms of the group. Okay, it is all about the Agman's definition of socialization. Next, Gillin and Gillin defined socialization as the process by which individual develops into a functioning member of the group, following its standards, conforming to its modes, observing traditions, and adjusting himself to the social situations. Mean to say that individual starts functioning as a member of a group with the help of the family members, the friends, peer group, education institutions, and all, following the standards of the society and various values and traditions. Okay, and adjusting accordingly, he will try to adjust himself to different situations and become a social being. Okay. And finally, the famous Indian sociologist Mazumdar definition, I will see. According to him, the process socialization is the process whereby original nature is transformed into human nature. Okay, original nature means the physiological being or the biological being is transferred into the social nature or the human nature, and the individual turns himself into a person. Okay, is what the definition of the Mazumdar, the famous Indian sociologist. So these are all the definitions of the sociology. Yeah, social. Next, we the process. This is from the birth till the death. The individual
I am not
keeps
understanding,
on
sir.
socializing himself with the interaction of various members of the society, with the various agencies of society. The situations are the circumstances before the birth lay a great, what to say, great emphasis on the kind of life he is going to lead. The parents' courtship and their marital selection, and the customs concerning pregnancy, the birth, and the whole system of the cultural and traditional practices surrounding the family are important for the child's growth. In the sense, from the before the marriage itself, the process of socialization starts. Okay, before the birth itself. Okay, prenatal care is an important part of family welfare. Okay, the circumstances preceding his birth are indirectly going to influence the growth of the child in the society. Okay, the way the birth, in the sense, if he is not taken care of properly, he is going to be with underweight or with some other ailments, or consanguineous marriages leads to different types of genetical defects. Okay, these are all the genetical problems or the birth defects which are going to influence his socialization or his personality in his future life. So generally, it is important to stress upon the prenatal care is very important or very vital for the proper socialization, for the proper nurturing the growth of a child to lead a future life. Okay, so from there, you can say everyone is born with definite capacities, in the sense physical capabilities, able to listen, able to respond, and all with all these physical capabilities. And these capacity will improve day by day with new techniques of instruction and incentives from other members of the society. So generally, people will not use, children will not use the maximum capacity to learn. In the sense, their learning capacity is not maximum extent. They use, depending on the interaction of the society, the various members in the society or the family members or the neighbors, the way they influence the child, he is going to learn the things. Okay, is all what the process of socialization. The surrounding members totally influence the child. Okay, there are various factors in the process of socialization. You can say number one is imitation. Generally, it is a basic nature of the human being from the childhood till the death. Every individual, every child, even the old age people, everyone is try to imitate the others and try to follow the mannerisms or the behavior of or actions of the other person. Not only the behavior or mannerisms, various things generally they try to inculcate from the other by looking at the other person. Okay, this generally we can say a child walking with like his father, swinging a stick or wearing specs, or these are all imitation. We can see putting pencil in the mouth. Okay, these are all the basic general examples. We can say they are imitating. And in the imitation, children most of the time they try to imitate the members in his surroundings. It may be his mother or father or the siblings, sisters or brothers, or his peer group, friends. Okay, most of the time the surrounding members influence his behavior because of the imitation ability or imitative nature of the child. In imitation, the person imitating performs exactly the same activity as the one being performed before him. Okay, this he try to imitate the other person in this exact manner. It may be conscious or unconscious. Consciously or unconsciously, he try to imitate the other person, or deliberately or ideationally, he try to imitate the other person. Various mannerisms, various behaviors, all these things generally people try to imitate. Okay, so imitation is the major factor in the process of socialization of the child, we can say. The child, when compared to the adult or the old age person, he has the child has the greatest capacity of imitation. He try to talk the way his mother or father talks, in the sense the language, the pronunciation. These are all acquired by the child only through imitation. Okay, the language, the mannerisms, the pronunciation. These are all the things generally child learns through imitation. So it is because of this tendency to imitate, children influence. Children are totally influenced by their parents and friends, whose behavior they imitate without any judgment, or without knowing what is good or what is bad. The child try to imitate the parents or his friends. Okay, so it is all the imitation is plays you can say major role in socializing the individual, mainly especially in the language ability or the mannerisms or the pronunciation. Okay.
Sir, hello,
Secondly,
sir.
you can say identification is also one of the
Hello.
factor in the process of socialization, plays an important role. As a child in his early age, child cannot make any differentiation between the organism and the environment. Okay, so for example, first time in his experience, in his surroundings, if he has seen a dog, uh, he don't know what is that. Generally, the parents or his friends has to explain that this is a dog. This will have so and so characteristics. And the next day, if he comes to see a goat, which is somewhat similar to dog, if he say this child generally says it is dog like animal, until unless the parents or his friends explains to him that it is a goat and it is having so and so characteristics, then he is able to differentiate between dog and goat. So these are all the things generally the child gets by experience or by exposure to the environment, or by interaction with the people surrounding him. So in identification, the child, as he grows in his age, he comes to know the nature of the things which satisfy the needs, which become his object of identification. The toys with which he plays, or the picture book which he enjoys, or looking at the mother who feeds him. Generally, these all things will become the objects of his identification. Okay. The toys, he try to identify themselves himself with the toy or the different picture books or the mother. And the speed and area of identification increase. The speed, he will try to identify and try to follow the same mannerisms, same behavior, same pronunciation, or the same language. Okay, the speed and area of identification increases with the growth in his age, we can say. And this identification will become more and more sociable if he interacts with more and more people in the society. So in this way, imitation, identification are the few factors which help the child in socialization. Besides that, the last factor is language. Language is the medium. Language is the channel or communication medium through which the child learns various things how to communicate, how to follow mannerisms, various things in his future life. He will try to with interaction or with social intercourse, you can say. It is a way of cultural transmission, we can say. Generally, the child initially utters few words which have no meaning, but gradually he comes to learn his mother tongue. Okay, so he has been told that you can say that the language totally molds the personality of the individual from infancy. Okay, with the help of this medium of communication, with the channel of this communication, the language plays an important role besides identification and imitation and in socialization of the individuals. So we can say summatively, the identification, the imitation is the major role besides identification and language. We need up to 3 years or 5 years, we can say the imitation plays a major role besides the identification and the language. After 5 years, 4 years or 5 years, he totally try to learn the things with the help of the language. Language becomes a major source of socialization. Okay, so these three factors help in the complete process of socialization of the individual. Okay, so this all about the process of socialization from a biological being, from a living being to a social being. By birth, generally child is called a animal. He will become a social animal by the interaction of the society, by the various people, by the various agencies, by the various things in his environment influence this animal or a child to become a social animal. Okay, so it is generally called, man is called generally as a social animal, without which he is unable to live upon. There are few examples where we can say child, if he is been after the birth, if he has been kept in forests with some his by fulfilling his biological needs, if you observe after without the interaction of any human beings, if you observe the same child after a few years, after 6 years or 7 years, by completely fulfilling his biological needs, we can say he don't have the ability of the walking ability or the language ability or the mannerisms. Everything is like an animal. Okay, he will be unable to walk, he will be unable to stand, he will be unable to pronounce, he will be unable to come out without with anything, totally become expressionless, without any expressions, without any emotions, unable to walk, unable to talk, unable to do anything. So it is all the influence on the child when he lacks the interaction of the society, or when he lacks the support of the family member, when he lacks the support of the other human beings. So we can say he is still an animal. Okay. After there is an example of Anna and Isabelle, where these two are illegitimate children who are brought up in isolated areas. Okay, isolated areas, are totally isolated in a separate room by giving all their biological needs. After 6 years, if they have been observed, that they have been observed in such a way that they are unable to talk or walk, or totally without any emotions or expressions. Okay, so they spent all 6 years alone in a room. Okay, they never showed any intelligence, totally expressionless. So they could not move on their own. Okay, they totally shown absence of socialization. So these all you can say, without the support of the sociological resources, social resources, biological resources are of nothing. Okay, social resources combining biological resources make a child a complete social animal or a social being, we can say. So next we'll talk about theories of socialization. In theories of socialization, we have to study the three theories. One is Cooley's self-class theory. Number two is Maid's theory, and number three, Sigmund Freud's theory. C.H. Cooley, in his theory, he mentioned importantly that man does not come to form opinions about himself unless and until he comes into contact with other people and knows their opinions about himself. In the sense, if simply we can say that if we stand in front of the mirror and look at ourselves, we form an opinion, our perception, our opinion on ourselves. Okay, how we look, I myself look to others is what I. Okay, I feeling will develop if we stand in front of the mirror. How I look to others. So what the individual forms opinion if we stand in front of the mirror. And the second one is how others look at me. Okay, we, others, I and others. Okay, how others look at me, how others have their opinion on me is all what the second concept in this Cooley's theory. Number one is how I look to others. Okay. Number two is how others respond to me, how others look at me. That's what the second concept. And the third one is judging between I and others and forming an opinion. That's what looking self theory. If others look at me badly, how can I correct myself? How can I change myself? That's what the individual generally forms opinion. If others look at me in a different manner, how I have to change? Okay, is all what the feelings of the individual. We can say by standing in front of the mirror, he can judge himself about his socialization skills. He changes he has to make according to the society. So, for example, when you enter a room and approach a small group of people who are talking to each other, if the members leave the room with the lame excuses, then the individual will come out with a certain opinion. Okay, he feels that others have a bad opinion on me, so he try to change by if this instance, if this moving away repeats continuously for a few days, he will feel hurt and try to change himself and try to move accordingly according to the behavior of the group. Or in another case, if you enter into a room, a group of people who are talking to each other will quickly surrounds you. It will drag your attention and affect your self feelings. Okay, this is totally different situation from the initial example. So in these two situations, generally people try to form their opinion about themselves and how others are looking at themselves, and try to judge between these two, I and others, and form a totally a balanced behavior and try to behave accordingly. This is what the Cooley's theory explains about. When our associates call us intelligent or average or tall or short, fat or thin, we react to them and form the same opinion about ourselves as they have formed. If most of the people of your group, social group, are calling you as tall or short or intelligent or average or dull or fat or thin, you also form the same opinion in your mind about yourself, about your physical self. Okay, and when you look at the picture image of yourself into the mirror, the perception of the others, the opinion of the others give an image of the social self. The knowledge about ourselves comes to us from the reaction of the other persons. So how the others react to us, how we form opinion. Is all what we form a conflict between these two and come to a conclusion with a common judgment about ourselves. So it is the difference between I and others. How I look to myself, or how I look to others. And the second one is how others look at me. Okay, these are all the feelings generally people form. Thus, we can say this looking glass self theory, the individual perceives, okay, which the individual perceives may be different from the image others have actually formed. So this is the variation between the individual perception of how others picture him and the views they actually hold. Okay, it is generally ego boosting, you can say. If they misjudge, if others misjudge or form bad opinion on you, you will try to change yourself. Okay, in the sense, these by looking at the others or by looking at ourselves, we try to change, we try to form a behavior. Okay, this is what looking glass self theory or coolest theory, you can say. The second one is Mead's theory. G.H. Mead, a famous sociologist, developed this theory of socialization. According to him, the individual develops out of the communication contact with others. How he communicate with others. In these communication processes, he will try to analyze himself and try to modify himself or change himself. Okay. The child comes to depend upon and identify himself with him with emotionality. So initially the child interacts with his mother and try to form opinion about himself, or you can say he differentiate himself from his mother, and then he has to integrate himself and mother into a new social system, you can say. It is a two-person or two-role system. The child taking a subordinate role and to the superior role of the mother. Then the child repeats the process for his father. He differentiates his father from his mother and then integrates himself into the social system. In this process continuously goes on. Even as the child grows, he interacts with the peer group, he interacts with neighbors, he interacts with the other members of the society. So whenever he try to interact with other members of the society, he will internalize himself the roles of the others. He will move into the role of the other persons and try to act, try to respond accordingly. Is about internalization, what you can say. In this way, the individual develops and grows. It is which is an essential characteristic of the self, we can say. This individual, in other words, you can say it is a self-conscious. Man can do only through assuming the role of other persons and looking at himself through their eyes. Okay, in the sense, stepping into the shoes of the other person and thinking from the angle of the other person and behaving accordingly. In the sense, internalizing himself and try to behave, try to balance himself is all about Mead's theory, you can say. The self is not something that exists first. In the sense, it will not come by birth. The self, the individuality will not come by birth. It enters into the self develops by interaction or by developing the relationship with others. Okay, he develops out this social interaction and constantly changing himself, constantly adjusting himself to the new people or the new situations or the new various problems or the conflicts that arise in his future life. So it assumes the prior existence of social order, and through which he continues to change himself, to adjust himself, to modify himself and behave accordingly. It's all about the socialization, we can say. And finally, the third theory is Sigmund Freud, a famous psychologist, is generally called as a father of psychology. In this, he mainly explained about the conflict between id, ego, and superego. Id is the instinctive desire. It is the behavior of a child. We can compare it with the behavior of a child, whereas ego is the mediator or the negotiator, the role of a negotiator, whereas the third one is superego. Superego always insists the child or the individual to follow the social rules and regulations, and if he violates, the ego interferes and makes the individual to follow the superego. Okay. It is the conflict between id, ego, and superego. In this conflict, ego mediates between id and superego. Id is always expresses childish behavior, or I can say antisocial behavior. Don't follow the social rules and regulations. Whereas superego, which follows social rules and regulations. Okay, these generally the individual when he moves in the society has to follow the superego. In the sense, he has to follow the social rules and regulations if you want to survive, if you want to move in the society. Even if he moving in the society and behaves antisocially or against the social rules and regulations and behaves like a child, people look at him differently. And in this context or in this situation, ego interferes and try to modify his behavior and telling him that this is not good or this is not proper. Okay, and you have to change yourself. You have to follow the social rules and regulations. Otherwise, society will not accept you. Society will penalize you, or society will keep aside you. Is all what ego try to interfere and convince the superego to follow the individual to follow the super ego or the social rules and regulations. Okay. So Sigmund Freud tried to explain that man sometimes out of the stress, out of the unusual pressure on him, psychological stress or social stress, try to behave childishly or antisocially. In these situations, ego will enter and try to negotiate the individual, try to convince the individual to follow the social rules and regulations, follow the social rule. We can say super ego is like a gentleman behavior, whereas id is a child's behavior. There is always conflict between these two whenever the individual is in stress, or you can say he is totally under conflict. So is what the conflict between these three. Sigmund Freud explained about it. Id is always repressed. In the sense, even though if you want to express this childish behavior, antisocial behavior, by looking at the society or the way various people surrounding you, you will try to repress it. Okay, repress it and come out with a socially accepted behavior. For example, when a father relieves his stress or aggression by beating the child, the ego in such a case is not aware of the basis of its actions, you can say. The function of the ego here is the rider guiding the horse, which is the id, but like the rider, the ego sometimes unable to guide the ride as it wishes. Okay, and perforce must guide the id in the direction
chapter
to go. I mean to say that ego always try to control. Sometimes id will goes out of the control of the ego and behaves antisocially, and also out of the control of the social superego. Okay. So is what the conflict between id, ego, and superego is Sigmund Freud's theory of socialization. So next, the final topic is agencies of socialization. There are different institutions, different things, different agencies that influence the individual to become socialized, to act, to behave according to the social rules and regulations. The first agency is the family. The family, we can say, is the primary agent of socialization. Immediately after the birth, the mother, you can say, is the first person socializing the child. The parents or the family, all family members involved in socializing the child. They are not only closely related, they are closely associated or closely related to the child, but also physically they are nearer to him than the other people, or they even before 9 months or 1 year, the child totally spends his life in his home, okay, without moving outside, just interacting with the family members, especially more with mother and father. So from the parents, the child learns his speech and language. He start social morality, what is good, what is bad, how to respect elders, how to express mannerisms, how to speak out with the language, how to come out with the pronunciation, what is good, what is bad, what is proper word, what is improper word. Okay. uh, we try to learn all these things with the help of the family members. How to walk properly, how to step, how to eat, how to dress, okay, how to express mannerisms. In the family, he learns a number of rules and regulations. So that is why the family is called the cradle of social virtues. The child gets his first lessons in cooperation, tolerance, self-sacrifice, love, and affection in the family. The environment of family members or the family influences the growth of a child. If it is a bad family, the child learns bad habits. Whereas if the child is in a good family, he acquires good habits. So, juvenile delinquency, the major problem is a bad family environment, you can say. So, it is all the family that influences the growth of a child. Generally, psychologists say that a person is what he becomes. He becomes in a family. At the time of mate choice, the parents also try to find out family history of the boy and girl in order to know their good and bad points. Okay. Uh, child family continues to exercise the influence on the child, not only in his child.
Hello? Hello, friends. Hello, friends.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. My name is Shivani. Who is this? Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Who is
Bolo.
this?
Hasini.
Hasini. Hi, Hasini. Where is sir?
Don't know.
Maybe his sir left.
Me too, I don't know.
Okay. Anyone knows ma'am's number?
No.
No.
What is this? Today is last class. Nothing is happening. Hello?
Yeah, today is the last class now.
Yes, today is last class, but nothing is happening.
Today is our last class, right? Today is our
Yeah.
last class.
Yes.
Yes.
When the exams is going to start, anyone know?
What?
Exam dates, first semester exam date.
March
May
7th.
7th.
March antuna. May 7th.
Sorry, May 7th.
Oh.
What happened? Where is sir? Today I didn't understand anything in the class. Anyone knows ma'am's number?
Shivani?
Tell
Is
me.
this Shivani?
Yes, I am Shivani. What is your name?
Hasini.
Okay. Tell me.
Can you send index for me in groups?
What?
ఇప్పుడు అదే ఇండెక్స్ ఉంది కదా నాకు సెండ్ చేసావా గ్రూప్ లో పెడతావా ఒకసారి
ఏం ఇండెక్స్
అదే సోషలిజం ఉంది కదా పబ్లిక్ అడ్మినిస్ట్రేషన్ అండ్ పొలిటికల్ సైన్స్ ఇండెక్స్ ఉంటది కదా లెసన్స్ నేమ్స్ అది నాకు ఒకసారి గ్రూప్ లో పెడతావా
లెసన్స్ నేమ్స్ దా ఏ సబ్జెక్ట్ లో
పబ్లిక్ అడ్మినిస్ట్రేషన్ పొలిటికల్ సైన్స్ అండ్ సోషలిజం
నువ్వు మొత్తం పీడిఎఫ్ నీకు పంపిస్తాను
నాకు పీడిఎఫ్ అవసరం లేదు ఓన్లీ ఇండెక్స్
Hello.
కట్టి చాలు ఓన్లీ ఇండెక్స్ పేపర్
ఓకే పంపిస్తా మీ నెంబర్
Sorry, power problem.
Sir, please, can you
So
tell
we are
lesson names?
talking about the family as the primary agency of socialization.
Agency.
Sir,
we don't have that lesson.
Family is
sir.
called the primary agency of socialization. After that, the second agency of socialization is the school. Here in the school, the child learns to cooperation or discipline or expression of his ideas, opinions, views. He will try to learn from the school environment.
Are you telling sociology only?
Going in time to the school, coming out from the school in time, attending the school, doing the school work regularly. All these things, not only these things, besides that sharing the tiffin box, interacting with others, adjusting himself with other friends. All these things in the school environment makes the child socialization, makes the child makes the child help in socialization of the individual. Besides these, a good education make the child a good citizen. Okay, a good education can make the child a good citizen, while a bad education can turn him into a criminal, you can say. So education play a great, a vital role in socialization. A well-planned system of education can produce socialized persons, you can say. So school plays an important role, we can say. It will the child will get the knowledge about different opinions, form different opinions about various aspects in the world, which he comes to learn through his teachers, his fellow friends and all. Okay, so number 2 agency is school. Number 3 is the playmates, the peer group or the friends. The equal age group people are called the peer group. Generally, from the birth till death, every individual will move along with his peer group. The opinions or the feelings or the problems he can discuss with most of the time, other than which he cannot discuss with the family members, he can freely discuss with his friends. Okay, he share all the opinions, feelings with his friends. Okay. If he moves among the good friends, he will come out with a good behavior. If he moves among the bad friends, he will come out with a bad behavior, or the bad social behavior he will come to learn. Child learns something from his friends and playmates, which he cannot acquire from parents. Okay, from them, generally he learn how to cooperate, or the morality, or the fashions, or the craziness, or the how to perceive the things in the environment, or various knowledge he will gain from interacting with his peer group. The knowledge of the such things is necessary for every individual from the social point of view, you can say. So there are various things. Generally, the child learns from his friends, or from his peer groups, or from his playmates, by which he will become more and more socialized. Okay, like a cooperation, or understanding, or helping the others, or equality. Everything he learns from the playmates. Okay. So next, the fourth agency of socialization is the religion. Religion not only socializing the individual, but also the controls the behavior of the individual. Okay, and try to control, try to mold the beliefs and ways of life. In almost every family, family members are practice according to their own religion. So the child sees his parents going to the temple, or the church, or the masjid, and performing various religious ceremonies. He listens to these religious sermons, which he determine his course of life, and shape his ideas, you can say. So he will learn some discipline, or morality, or the kindness, okay, gratitude, and helping others, unity, or the various characteristics. Generally, the individual learns by following the religion. Okay. So it in modern society, of course, the importance of religion has decreased, but it is try to continue. It is try to still influencing our ways of life, our beliefs. Even though we are not following the religious practices or beliefs, when we go out of the house, everybody is following their religious practice within the house. Okay, very strictly or very seriously. Even the kindness, and the equality, or the sharing, and the unity, all these things generally we can see in the behavior of the individual when you follow the religious practices. Okay, so it is all about religion indirectly influence the behavior of you can say social behavior of the individual. Okay, so it is the family, number one. Number two is school. Number three is the peer group. Number four is church, or the masjid, or the temple, a religious place, religion. And lastly, or finally, you can say the state, the ruling government, or the authoritarian agency, which controls the people through its rules and regulations, various laws. Okay, when the individual moves out of the house, and try to make his life in the society, he has to follow the social conduct, social rules and regulations. some are written. Generally, these social rules, some are written and some are unwritten. Some unconsciously people follow the social rules and regulations. Say, for example, if we enter into a railway station to purchase the ticket, we cannot just um, go into the in front of the counter by throwing all the people. Okay, we just go stand in the queue and wait for our turn to purchase the train ticket. Okay, these all things are not written. Generally, people follow by looking at the others, their accepted social behaviors by looking at the others. If 10 members are standing in queue, as 11th person, you are generally inclined or forced to stand in the queue. You cannot just directly jump into the counter. Okay, so these are all the things which explains the social behavior or socialization of the individual. So even when catching the bus or when you enter into the temple or church or masjid, or when you face your elders, okay, in your family, the way you react shows your social behavior. Okay, all socialization process, we can say. If the individual is failed to behave in accordance with the laws laid down in the society by the state or by the government, they may be given punishment for such failure, for not following such rules and regulations. Say, for example, you're violating the traffic line, jumping the traffic signal, you will be punished with fine. Okay, there are many examples in our day-to-day life when we move on in the society, and which forces the various rules and regulations of the society force us to follow the social rules when we are moving along with a number of people who may be known or unknown. Okay, so it is the state plays an important role in controlling the behavior of the individual and moving with an acceptable behavior, acceptable social behavior, you can say. So these are all the 5 agencies of socialization, a very important topic from the examination point of view, besides the theories of socialization. So these agencies are family, number 2, school or education institutions, number 3, peer group, number 4, the religious place, number 5, finally the state. These are all the 5 agencies which influence the individual to have a good social behavior. From the birth till death, the individual is totally influenced by any one of these agencies and make him to follow the social rules or make him to have socialization. So there is an increase in crime in society. It is all because of the failure of socializing agencies, we can say, to nurture, to develop the individual properly and adequately socializing. Okay, if an individual is not properly or adequately or timely socialized or nurtured of his social behavior, trained of his social behavior, we cannot see many criminals in that society. Nowadays, the families faces a crisis because of the parental maladjustment, because of the single parent families or parentless families, or we can say the many criminals arise out of the slums. It is all because of the parentless behavior. Parentless families or single parent families or maladjusted families, or we can say total illiteracy, total family environment or neighborhood environment, or various all these factors adversely affect the process of socialization of the individual and make him a criminal in his future life. Okay, besides these, education system is full of drawbacks. Nowadays, school is no longer is a, you can call as a temple of education. It is a place where boys and girls are learning more about drugs, alcohol, and less about cultural heritage or traditions or socially accepted behavior and all. So they are totally influenced by the various things. And one more factor which is going against the socialization of the individual is urbanization. Totally narrow down the neighborhood system and totally taken away the playmates from the children who now plays with electronic games with cell phones, laptops than with their neighborhood children. Okay. Similarly, the religion has a lesser hold on the individual in urban areas, and also in the same manner, the state authority is more disobeyed than obeyed. So there is a need to order to have a socialized beings. These agencies should function in an effective manner, in a proper manner, we can say. Okay. That's all today for the class. Okay, bye.
क्या चीज बोलते हैं कि चल जा रहा है समझ में नहीं आ रहा